right, so I think the first thing we need to talk about with photo books is about what photo books are and what they mean to our customers. And probably the best way to give examples of that is I've got my own photo book, and I like to carry my book around when I travel to stores, because I like to show my book to people, because quite honestly, I'm proud of my family. I got great kids. We do a lot of things. I love them, and I love to show people that we do things, and that photo books aren't necessarily event-based. As much as some people would like to think that they're event-based. I went on a cruise, or I went on vacation, or a wedding, or a birthday. You know what? They absolutely are event-based, but they're not. You can use them for anything. Sunday morning a few weeks ago, we got up. The weather was great. We just didn't know what to do. We said, well, let's find a place to go kayaking. So we did a search on the internet. We found a place over in the Antietam battlefield where you can go kayaking. I don't know if you know about what Antietam is, but Antietam is the site in the Civil War of the single bloodiest day, the most casualties of any war, anything in American history. 23,000 casualties on that one day.
In one day.
In one day.
Wow.
Sounds like a happy weekend.
It was very bad.
Not quite.
So anyway, this creek that you can kayak, we said, this sounds very interesting. I'd been there a couple of years ago going through the battlefields, and I had seen the creek. Let's go check it out. So what we did is we took a day. It was me and my kids, or Sherry and the kids, and some friends of ours. And this is where we put in. It's a relatively shallow creek. Water's crystal clear. It's very cold. So this is where we put in. I just put a little excerpt about what.
Oh, that's neat.
Oh yeah, look at that. With talking about the casualties there and where you were.
Like it's a published book or something.
Right.
That's my son actually taking off down the river.
Oh,
Yeah,
neat.
I think there's a bigger picture in here.
So
of him.
you had individual kayaks, I guess that's what they
Yeah, we have tandems and we have singles. So just a couple of views. There's one of our tandems there. Now my son, he's 9. My daughter's 7. This is typically my daughter. This is her when you force her like with food
to do something.
Stand real.
You force her with food.
Just something to get her to not do that when you take pictures of her.
Is that a real bug?
Yeah, no, this is crazy.
Hopefully
This is
that's not the food you were forcing.
No wonder she was standing
I know, right?
straight.
this caterpillar. It's called a hickory horned devil.
Oh my goodness.
It fell out of the tree on his head. This is my friend Neil. The thing is probably 6 inches, 6.5 inches long.
God.
And they get to be about an inch in diameter.
Wow.
That's how big this thing is. It fell on his head. Now it's absolutely, and it's got these horns that come out of its head, and all down its back it's got all these spines. It looks horrible. It's totally harmless.
Right.
But this time of
It's
year,
a defense mechanism. Yeah.
this time of year they burrow down in the ground. They apparently make some very pretty moths. But it fell on his head.
What kind of omen is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Before we left.
Right. Oh,
So
I didn't-
this is my daughter and one of her friends, Lindsay, in the little kayak. Let's see.
That's so
There's my
cool.
son heading down the way, and there's a couple more down here.
That's fun. The water looks really nice.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It is absolutely stunning. There's a little closer of him. Now my
That's kinda
kids,
fun.
we just started kayaking this year.
Okay.
Before we
Did you go learn someplace or
No,
just
they-
did it?
just bought a couple of kayaks. We said,
Get in the water,
between
go.
Sherry, myself, and my kids, there's 4 of us.
Right.
Let's buy 2 tandems, 2
Right.
people in each kayak. That way it can be me and my son
Right,
and my
you have
Right.
a kid with an adult.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
No problem. We went out one time. We were with friends and neighbors. They also had singles. My kids got in the singles and they took to kayaking like this.
Wow.
My daughter's 7 years old.
Wow.
And now they don't want to go with us. So it looks like I'm going to be getting rid of my tandems
Tandems.
if anybody's in the
Get some
market
singles.
for them. And I'll get some singles because
How much do you want for one?
well, we'll talk about that.
Does it come with a book?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, can we get a book with it?
Yeah, actually you can. If that makes the deal. So now when we go kayaking, my son and my daughter, they kayak on their own. They don't kayak with us, so we load our stuff down with gear and let them
Go.
use other people's kayaks.
There you go.
As long as they don't push each other off.
Yeah, right.
But the
I can
kayak,
go ahead with the paddles.
the kayak that my son's on actually is known as a sit on top. You can't sink them. They're totally sealed. You sit on top of them and you can flip them, and they're
that's
self-bailing and
Okay.
super easy to
So you're not
do.
confined either.
No, not at all.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and we don't do the kayaks that you put the skirt around and all
Yeah.
that. We're not that. These are more lake and river kayaks.
Got it.
So
Yeah, I
that's
don't
my
know about
daughter
having
and
sealed
Lindsay.
and turn over and,
My daughter's a creature finder. She loves creatures, so she's
So
always
the next,
she's
the
the
next guy will
explorer.
add those clear bottom ones so that she can look underneath.
yeah.
Yeah, probably. So there we are, all lined up with all of our
Yeah,
kayaks.
Real colorful too.
Yeah. That's my son and daughter. And they're on. This is a single, but my daughter likes to ride on the back of it. She marches to the beat of her own drummer.
Drum.
Yeah. There they are again. Now this place has the river has probably just class 1, class 2 rapids, so it's not a big deal for kids to get out and fall off, because right here you can stand up. It's probably only knee deep, if that. Now this is kind of the
pretty that is.
main setting of the whole trip. This is known as Burnside Bridge. This is where this bridge was where one of the biggest battles took place, because the Confederates, I believe, held this bridge, and the Union Army was trying to get to it and take it. And there were so many casualties that surrounded this bridge that some of the writings say that the river actually ran red because of all the blood.
Think how pretty that'll be in the fall. With all the trees.
A red
Oh, I
river?
thought you meant with the red.
A red river?
What's really striking about
Are we in Chicago?
kayaking through this, though, is whether you are interested in the Civil War, you know its history, if you know a little bit about this area, just
being there,
just
kinda
being
gives you
there,
a feeling.
yeah, it's
Usually like the whisper of the
yeah,
past or
Yeah.
it
something.
really, really does, really does.
Battlefield.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's where I'm
This
proposed.
battlefield?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Well, where's that book?
Yeah. Hello.
Let's see. So here all the kids are.
Looks like
Just
you
out.
know all these people? Looks like
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. This.
I just picked them up on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just all friends and
Nice.
So
neighbors.
professional. Look at him.
Yeah, he's very agile. There he is. Some more. And then on the back, I figured the Nude Kayakers Club was the appropriate. Typically, what I when I redo this on the back, I should put a cast of characters. All the people that are in the book.
That would be a good idea.
Just list
Thank
down
you.
here.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
so everybody knows. Just so everybody's listed on here.
That's a fun idea.
And then just another picture
So
on
for
the
a
back.
6-hour
So that's our
trip,
trip
we're
to Antietam Creek, and to take this book and show it to my friends and neighbors that went on this trip, they're like,
It kind of makes me want to go kayaking.
Yeah.
Well, it's great
Actually-
for the kids too, then to look
Yeah.
back on it. That's what's fun.
Yeah.
They can even have their own copies.
and how easy is it? I mean, as opposed to going to find pictures on your computer,
Right.
or I got to be honest with you, even a stack of 4x6 prints.
Yeah.
This tells a story.
Oh, absolutely.
And it really could tell a story on its own, because I keep one of these out at home on the coffee table,
Right.
just like any other nice book, right? People come in and they pick it up and look at it, and we start talking about it.
Right.
It's
And
a lot
the
of
cover
fun.
really adds a lot to it. as
Oh,
opposed to just,
absolutely.
you know, the plain,
Title on it and
the plain black. Or
Personally, I think the cover is where it's all at. If you take a look at, sorry about this, I have another example of a book. I did the same book without a cover.
okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now, when we started photo books, we thought the window was nice because it allowed you to look in, and it kind of invited you to open the book and start looking through it.
Right.
Even today, this is still a very nice product. However,
Correct.
what we were looking for this year, when we started this year, we started looking for things to do better. Things that we already do, but make them better. That was kind of our philosophy going into 08. And when we did all of our training meetings with our TSMs, we talked about, let's take everything we do and try to figure out ways to do better. So the book cover came out of that, trying to figure out a way to do books better.
More finished.
It's
Yeah.
a lot more
It is.
finished. It looks
is.
like a novel that would be on a shelf
Right.
at a Barnes and Noble.
Exactly.
Okay.
You could go in and purchase
Now this
it.
is nice, but if this is sitting out versus this, somebody's going to pick this up.
Right. I would
okay,
agree.
a lot quicker. Not to mention the fact that if you really, if you're creative about it and you do some writing here and some journaling here,
And who doesn't
you
like
can-
to see their name in print?
Yeah. Right.
Right,
exactly.
So it's kind of fun.
Okay, so now with that being said, if we think about what the book cover means, it's really the strongest statement to selling a book. I think that a well done book cover that's on display will sell more of these.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Okay, this by itself, $5 add-on, it's like it's a no-brainer.
Right.
Okay, so this little product that we designed as being a sell up from the book actually makes the book to sell up.
It's a must add-on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it really
there's
is.
no
It's not-
question about
not
it. I
only
mean,
that,
it
though.
just really personalizes the book.
Is it makes me want to buy a second one to give to
Yep.
somebody that's in it. You know,
Right.
it's-
Right. Or to
because
have
it's
for the
something a little
kids
bit
and all
nicer.
that.
Yeah.
Or even to buy the book covers for books that you've already done. You know, why not? Hey, you know that book that you had. Why don't you bring it in? We'll look at your best picture and we'll
And
make
pick
the
them out and
cover.
make a
Yeah.
book cover
Right.
that matches the book.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
that's a good idea. I didn't think about that.
Now let's keep that in mind when we start talking about making the book cover.
Okay.
Okay. If the book cover is that important, we all know what first impressions are, right?
Right.
It's cliched, but so is Mary had a little
Lamb.
right.
That was
I got
good.
it.
You did.
You did very well.
Good.
So with that in mind, let's make sure that we know how to produce the book covers, and since it is the first thing that people see, let's make sure that they are produced properly and perfectly.
What makes it easy with those crop lines and everything like that, it's really simple to put together.
Well, that's what you'd think. That's certainly what you'd think. In our travels over the summer, very rarely did we see a book cover made properly.
Really?
We found them made taped down. We found them folded over like a school book. You know, like take a track. Okay, we found book covers that were way too big. They weren't cut the right size. And I think that's where we need to help everybody out, is to
Really
show
need to
how
detail it.
need to detail it and show how to make a book cover properly. Now, we also when we talk about quality, the other thing that I think that stretches to is everything we produce. We have become so benign to the things that we produce, and it's partially due to the way our industry works. If we go back, we're all old timers. We've been around a long time.
Hey, speak for yourself.
I'm speaking for you.
Old school.
You know, I hate to say this, back in the day when we had mini labs, we've all run mini labs. We've all printed on mini labs.
Correct.
There was an art to doing that, to being good at it. And when
Yeah.
you had customers come in and they wanted somebody specific to print
Right.
their pictures, right?
Absolutely.
Well, that's because somebody took care. They had some passion about what they do.
There was eyes on
There was
everything.
eyes on
Absolutely.
everything. We cared about it. There was just passion.
I used
And
to
then
say,
what?
I used to say that I traveled all around the world and I've never left the store.
Oh, right.
You know what? That's actually true.
Because you're living through other people's
You are, by
memories
proxy.
and experiences. Exactly.
You absolutely are.
Yeah.
So, if you follow chronologically what happened with the mini lab, the advent of all the frontiers, for example, and all the automation that took place, now it made it so anybody can print good pictures. And I don't mean just anybody. I mean any of us, anybody we hire.
Right.
Walmart, Eckerd's, Walgreens, everybody can print good pictures, and you don't have, the passion's not there. You don't need it. You can just press the button and
Go.
go.
Right.
So now the behavior is, with that, is there is no passion.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that back in those days, everybody had to get prints. With film, everybody got 4x6 prints. We had the
pop the top.
passion.
Right, pop the
absolutely,
top.
Pop the top. When the big box stores and the drug stores got into it, then the 4x6 became commoditized. Everybody had to get it. It was taken for granted.
Right.
It really wasn't a big deal.
Right.
Prints, they're in a box, they go in a drawer, it's no big deal.
Right.
Okay. We finally have something, a number of products, calendars, cards, all kinds of things that bring some passion and some emotion back to what we do. How did the photo industry get started? It's about sharing, it's about memories.
We
and about
started it 90 years
passions.
ago.
You know, that's exactly what it's about.
Where's my cane?
And we got to get away from this commodity thing. We got to start sharing
Memories.
memories.
Yeah, because
And
everything's individual. I mean,
and
it's all.
it absolutely is. Who wants to sit around a computer screen and look at pictures? It's
Right.
not a bad presentation, but it's not always convenient.
Right.
Or the internet, or my camera phone, or my digital camera.
Right.
We as a company need to bring back the passion and the emotion and teach our customers that. I've got neighbors, this is the craziest thing, and being in this industry as long as I am, this blows my mind. I've got neighbors that have a son that just went to college this year, and their daughter is 2 years younger than he is. There's a span of their life, for the last probably 3 years, they have virtually no pictures.
This is on the
Zero.
computer?
A lot of them are on the computer, what few they have, but
Right.
they just really never did the digital thing. They just, when that whole transition transpired, they didn't take pictures
Anymore.
And when Zach graduated, they were coming to me for pictures because I do take pictures. I take pictures all the time.
Right.
So there's a whole generation of people I firmly believe are going to have no pictures.
Well, there was a customer who came in the other day who wanted to see what we could do because they had all their kids' pictures on YouTube, but they weren't able to print them out well. And they're like, I lost there's all these great pictures, and they've just put them up there, and then they deleted their cards,
That's right.
And they're
now
gone.
they don't have anything.
And they're
Right.
gone. Absolutely. And fortunately now with Ritz Picks, you can automatically store all your pictures
Right.
online
and then produce all these
and
great
produce
pictures.
all this
them.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's sharing those memories is just such a key. And I mean, for you to stand here and talk about your kayaking trip in this form, you know,
It's different than sharing
Yeah,
pictures online.
it
I
really
shared
is.
pictures online of this trip
Yeah.
with the people that were on it, but when they came over and we did
Right.
this,
Oh, yeah.
it was a different experience. You know, the stuff that the pictures in digital form, online or on a camera on a computer, they don't have any emotion. They all looked at the pictures.
Right.
They all said, "Oh yeah, they came out great."
right.
Well, they came over a couple of weeks later, and we looked at the exact same pictures here,
Well,
and we sat around and had a conversation and
about it.
talked about the whole
Well,
trip
that's
again.
the thing. You want to invite all five senses, right? You want to be able to touch it. You want to be able to see it. You want to be able to have your friends around you. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
maybe not smell it. Scratch and sniff is next, right?
You never know.
Scratches.
Maybe yeah, right. Scratch and sniff book. That's the next thing we need.
I'm not going to go there.
There's a right way and there's a wrong way.
There's definitely a right way and a wrong way. And conceptually, the way the photo book was designed, it was designed to be a book cover just like you'd find in a Barnes & Noble. You go
Okay.
into a Barnes & Noble and pick up a novel. It's just a piece of paper wrapped around the book.
Right.
Okay, that's all it is, and that's where this design concept came from. That's the way it needs to be executed. No tape inside, no tape here, no folds holding it on like a school book. It's designed to be a slip cover, just like you'd find in a novel. One of the things to look for also is you want it to lay flat. When the thing's on a coffee table, you want the book to lay flat.
Well, how else is it going to lay?
Almost fell off my stool.
I see.
Let's take a look at the two books.
Okay.
You see the difference here versus here.
Oh yeah.
Okay. You don't
Why is that?
Because the book wasn't produced right.
Okay.
Basically, we put on the book covers, we put places where you're supposed to cut it and where you're supposed to fold it, and the spine is one of the areas that it says soft fold. We want a soft fold here, and we want soft folds here so the book cover follows and fits around the book, but doesn't bubble up like that. So let's talk about how we're going to produce.
So if it bubbles up like this,
This one's easy to fix. How do you do it?
yeah, I mean, if it bubbles up with this, I mean, why is it? Is it because the edges were creased too much, or
Not
were
enough.
they not enough?
Not enough.
So it's too soft.
Yeah,
of a
it's too
fold.
soft. Yeah, too soft of a fold.
Okay.
So let's do an 8.5 by 11 book. Let's cut it out. Let's fold it and put it on an 8.5 by 11 book.
Okay.
And show how to get rid of that. If you're making books for display purposes, one of the keys is you want the light bulb to go off about what the book is.
Right.
That the book is here to tell a story. It's not about displaying pretty pictures, which so many of our books are. As I go around, I see a lot of great books out there, but they just look like they're showing off pretty pictures. Photo books are storybooks. They need to look like storybooks. Make sure that when you make one for a display, make sure that there's a story in the book. Make sure you have a title on it that looks like it can be a story, and that the title fits, it stands out. This is actually a very good one. I think I would just change the color of the text and maybe the style to make it stand out. The kiosk has features on it to make text stand out. You can add drop shadows, like this has a little drop shadow to make the text stand off
out
the
a little
page a little bit. There are several things you can do with it.
Yeah, I find it hard to read. You know,
Exactly.
It's definitely. I mean, if these samples are sitting on a counter, I'm drawn to this more than I am to that.
That's right. That's
because
right.
of that simple little detail.
Wouldn't it be the same thing for yourself?
Absolutely.
Not just for display.
Not
You're
for-
looking at
Yeah, I mean, if you're making a book for a customer, you want to make sure that you're putting those details into it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Got it? All right. Let's make a book cover. Okay. The book covers as they come out of the printer, regardless of it being an Oki or a Xerox, an 8x6 or an 8.5x11 book, they're all the same. The prints come out with cut marks, fold marks, telling you exactly where you need to cut and fold the book. If you cut the book cover out on the cut marks, it's going to be exactly the right size.
And when you say on the cut marks, you literally mean the cut marks.
The purpose in a cut mark is you really want the cut mark to go away.
Okay.
You don't want to leave the cut mark
there.
You don't want to leave any remnants of the cut mark, but you don't want to cut
so far in from the cut mark that it's not
the right size.
Okay.
So the point is, if you're going to cut, if the cut mark is still there, you want to keep cutting until it's gone.
Okay.
Okay. Probably just to the inside edge of the line, if you could be that precise. Now, for me, everybody kind of has their own way of making book covers and cutting it. I feel like it's easier for me if I cut the short ends off first. It makes it a little easier to handle. The thing to look for with the various designs, I personally feel like this is the most difficult product we have to make. It takes time, and this one takes a little bit of patience. And this is kind of the one that takes some passion to get it right, because it's hard to fold, it's hard to get it around the book. You got to cut it on the right places. And the biggest one is, and this is not a great example of it, but depending on the design, the cut marks, when you cut, your fold marks go away. And if this happens to be a book cover that aren't full page images and it's a white background, you don't know where to fold. Okay, that makes it the most difficult. This one's very easy. The cut marks are here. The folds are very distinct where they need to be. They're right at the edge of the pictures. The one that's the least important is the one down the center. That one's going to happen automatically when you put it on the book.
Okay.
You don't need to do anything with that one. So let's start by cutting the ends off. Okay. And as we all know, these cutters are extremely accurate and they're extremely straight, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we
They've
should always
always-
make sure that we're using these lines as guides, right?
Correct. As opposed to this line that's always perfectly straight.
Since none of these are very straight, everybody knows their own cutter. Okay, the two ends are cut off. I now know where to cut. The place to cut is not the edge of the picture. Okay, the place to cut is on the cut line. We want it to bleed. We want the image to be all the way off the page. So when we can make this cut, we're going to cut some of the picture.
Oh, you
off.
actually, I see you put a cut line there.
And if
So
you take a look at,
it's not advisable to make that black then.
that's one of the problems. Is if you happen to be using a background that's black or white, you don't know where to cut. So it's my suggestion that if you're in one of those situations where you're going to cut your folds off, to put a little crease, and I'll show you how to put the creases in the page before you make the final cut. Okay, this one's going to be pretty easy. As you can see, when we cut that off, you see we cut some of the picture off.
Right.
That's by design. Okay, now we're ready to start the folding process and put the cover on a book.
Wow. Just by cutting that down just
makes all the difference in the world.
Makes all the difference in the world, just looking at it. I mean,
well,
before you even put it on a book.
It's the ability to have what we call a full bleed image, an image that goes all the way to the edge. That makes a lot of difference. You know, here we spent all this time promoting bordered prints, and now we're, for this kind of product, it looks a lot better when it goes all the way to the edge.
Right.
Okay, so now the issue is, how do you fold, and how do you get the fold where you want it to be? And everybody's going to have their own way of doing it. Personally, I like to use the edge of a counter or the edge of my cutter, and I'll take my book cover and I'm going to line that fold edge right along the edge of the cutter, and then I'm just going to carefully use my thumbs and run it back and forth a few times down that edge. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm not creasing it all the way around. I'm just putting myself a crease so I know where the edge of the book needs to go. Okay. Now we're ready to put it on a book.
Okay.
When putting the book in the book cover, you've got your creases here, so you know where the edge of the book needs to go. Keep in mind that the book, it's a longer distance when around the book when the book is closed than when it's open. So let's just open the book like this, lay it where that crease is, and just hold it in place. Pick up the book, hold that crease in place, and let the book cover move where it needs to move. Let it be natural and pull around. Hold this snug. Come to the other side, and you'll see it doesn't line up. It's not supposed to line up. Just hold this down where that crease is. I'm not saying fold it over to the edge of the book. I'm fold it on the crease.
On the crease
okay?
that you made earlier.
Yep, and just hold it firmly. And what you want to do is you want to hold the book cover in the book and the book together firmly so that the spine comes around where it needs to come around naturally, okay? Get the book closed. Once the book is closed, lay it down flat, and I just take my thumb and forefinger and I run it up and down this side like this, flip it over, up and down like this, and then I do the same thing on these sides. Just fold them, because you're looking for kind of a round fold or soft fold, not a crease. And then when you have that, the book will lay flat.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and it fits. And when you go to open the book, it's not going to have the tendency to want to come off. It will come off. That's by design. That's the way book covers typically work. Keep in mind, we're not putting a real hard crease here. If you crease this real hard, you're going to expect the toner to crack. Okay, it's soft. Oh, there. See, there you go. Perfect. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So there's your book cover. The way we actually build a photo book. They're very simple to do. Pages should not fall out of a photo book. If they're produced properly, pages won't fall out. Just take your pages as they come out off the printer, lay them into the spine of the book. You don't have to be terribly concerned about whether they're straight or not. And take your book and put it in the heater. Make sure the red light comes on. It's going to take about 90 seconds for the machine to heat up and for it to heat up the resin inside the book. You want to watch it, because once the red light turns to green, we're going to take this book and we're going to lift it off and put it back down to turn the red light back on again, because we want to heat it some more. After you put the book back down and have the red light back on for the second time as you're reheating it, you can take the pages and start sliding them back and forth in the spine, and you can even fan the pages back and forth. This is a critical step known as agitating the resin. By fanning the pages apart like that while it's hot and then sliding the pages back and forth, we're causing that resin to get up in between the pages to hold them in place. Once you've done that once or twice, come back through, center the book block, make sure all the pages are nice and square. Once you have them where you want them, close the book, lift it off, and put it on the cooling rack. Don't put any paper clips or clamps or rubber bands or anything on it. Just leave it in this vertical position while it cools off. That'll allow the resin to fall into the right position. And once it's cool to the touch, the book is done. Okay, give the book a few minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes. You just want to make sure it's completely cool to the touch. At that point, the book is done. It'd be my suggestion, open the book up, take the first page and just give it a little tug on the corners, and then the same thing for the back page. Just give it a little tug. As long as the corners don't come out, the book's done. It's ready to deliver. Mike, now what I'd like to do is also on our travels, it's amazing the things that we see in the field, and we got to expect it. We've never done detail stuff like this.
Right.
And even though the things I'm showing you here with the calendar, and I'm going to show you in a minute with the notepad and what I just showed you on the books, it's the finer details of making our product better. That's the whole concept here, is to make things better. Product we can produce. I've got two 12 by 12 calendars here. They both look very, very nice. They look identical, as a matter of fact. The reality is, one is far and away better than the other when it comes to just attention to detail. Absolutely, this one's better. Let's take a look at this one closely. This is what we see a lot of, and it's hard to imagine. But the first thing that you don't want is when you crimp the wire, you don't want the wire to overlap. You don't want those little fingers to go inside. Okay, you don't even see the fingers now. Isn't
Yeah, I don't
that
see.
interesting?
Yeah.
Now, see that's point number 2 is with that calendar, you don't even see where that wire has been crimped. The other thing you don't want is you see how this wire is not round anymore
Correct.
because it's been crimped too much.
Too much.
Okay. When it's crimped too much, it looks bad. When the edge of the wire is bad, pages don't fold properly or flip properly when it's done that way. And then lastly, look at this. The holes
Yeah, that's
aren't
the
even
first
right.
thing I saw. Yeah, you got
The holes aren't even
extra
right.
holes in there.
Okay. This is all about setting your machine up properly, and
Okay.
we'll go through step by step how to set that up and how you get your calendar to be like this, where you don't see the binding, and so that the wire's not nice and round, so that the pages flip easily. Okay.
Hey, it's your kayak trip.
Isn't that amazing?
That is
You
amazing.
can do calendars, notepads, everything in the same picture. So now the correct way to make a calendar so that we lose the binding of the wire, in other words, so that when the calendar is closed, you don't see the crimp marks. As you do in this calendar, you can see where the wire is bound together. Take the first couple of pages of the calendar, 2, 3, 4 pages, doesn't really matter. And you're just going to flip them as though the pages were bound together. We're going to flip them over to the back, just like that. And we're going to wire it like this. So the adjustment on the side of the machine adjusts how deep the dies go when they make the holes. So at one setting, you'll notice where the depth is. Let's do another one. Oops, sorry. And now if we compare the two, you can see the difference. This is what you want, not this. Adjustment. The next adjustment we're going to talk about has to do with the placement of the holes. We use 2 different sizes of paper. You've got 8.5 by 11 for your 8.5 by 11 calendars, and the 12 by 12 paper for the 12 by 12 calendars. And in some cases, the 12 by 12 may be 12 by 11.7. Now what we have to do is we have to adjust where the holes end up on the calendar. On a 12 by 12 calendar, you don't want holes, you don't want more holes than what you have wire for. Okay, so with the 8.5 by 11 and 12 by 12 calendars, we have to determine which dies are pulled out and which ones are pushed in, so we don't end up with the wrong number of holes. If the dies are pulled out, the holes do not get punched. If the dies are pushed in, holes do get punched. The best way to adjust the machine, just start with them all pushed in and punch a piece of paper and figure out where you're at. Now that's nice and centered, but it's too many holes. So we have to figure out which dies to pull out and which ones not. On this particular machine, what I've done is I've marked the dies that need to be pulled out. So if I'm doing a 12-inch calendar, 12 by 12, I would pull this one out and this one out. And over here, I've got 11, 11, and 12. That means that I'd pull 12 out here. That's going to give me a set of holes that are centered on the page. The final adjustment on the machine is the left-hand guide. You'll notice I've got 2 marks on here, one for 11-inch and one for 12-inch. I slide this over since we're going to do a 12 by 12 calendar. Put my 12-inch paper in. I don't have holes here, and they're nice and centered. Okay. The key here is if you have an associate that comes into the store that's not familiar with the machine or not familiar with the store, they should be able to walk up to the machine and tell what they need to do to be able to make a calendar. If the machine's not marked, then nobody knows what to do if they're not familiar with the machine already. Okay, to start punching the calendar, take 3 or 4 pages at a time, no more than that. Doing more sheets, the punch would probably punch it, but you're likely to damage the machine. It's important when you're punching to have your mind in what you're doing, and when you flip the calendar, when you have your holes punched, lay your pages over so they stay in order. People don't like calendars that aren't in the right order. Okay. Now our calendar is fully punched and ready to bind. In order to get the bind so that the wire does not show or the binding doesn't show, so it's a nice presentation on the outside like this. Take 2 or 3 or 4 pages, the first 2 or 3 or 4 pages, and just flip them to the back as though the calendar was already bound. Line the pages up. To adjust the machine so that the clamp crimps the wires properly, the adjustment on the top of the machine is what's used. And really what you want to do is take a wire, lay it in the back of the machine, and crimp it. And pull it out, and if it needs to be closed up or opened up, make the adjustment. Once you have your machine adjusted properly, make sure you mark it. That way when you go to do a notepad and you need to close it up, you can adjust this so that the clamp comes down tighter, and you can put it right back to where it belongs for making calendars. As far as putting the wire in the pages, you can hang the wire off the machine here or in the clamp, whatever you're more comfortable with, or you can put them on by hand. Okay. Now you want to take the calendar and you want to lay it in the crimper. And it's important to note that the wire needs to be up like that, not facing down or not facing up. The wire needs to be in the machine, facing towards the back. We'll get a detail shot of that. Pull down the handle to crimp. And now, if your machine's adjusted properly, you'll notice that there's no overlap in the wire. They're not closed down over each other, and it's nice and round. And on top of that, let's go back and find our first page. Flip it back around to the front. There's the front of our calendar. You don't see the binding, and it's nice and round. Okay, the next thing I'd like to talk about, this once again gets back to the little details that make a product, a good product, even better. A notepad. How simple is it to make a notepad? They're very, very easy to make, but there's one detail that can really make it better. If you look at notepads and you look at them close, we intentionally bought these, we call them steel backs, we intentionally bought them a little large. One, we weren't sure what paper we were going to use. We may eventually go to a thicker paper. We may go to more pages. We may use a thicker chipboard. Who knows? But we wanted the flexibility to have that. We wanted to be able to do that. So the last thing that you want to do when you're done with your notepad, and we'll show you how to do this, is put it in where you do your wire on your wire bind, where you crimp it, put it down and crush it. Crush it all the way down to close this gap so that it holds the paper tighter.
Why?
It is all about presentation. It just looks better. If I don't point it out to you, you probably wouldn't. It wouldn't be obvious to you.
Okay.
But I think that if I showed you one pad that had it done and one pad that didn't, you would immediately pick out the pad as being better that has had it done.
Okay.
The pages just don't look as loose.
It's a subtle nuance.
It's very, very subtle. So once the calendar machine has been adjusted and everything is set and all the marks are on the machine, this is where the marks become important, because when you do a notepad, what we're trying to do is we're trying to crimp the steel back down to hold the paper tighter. This is after it's glued, after you've pulled the front and back sheet off, things almost ready to deliver. We're going to take our calendar punch and we're going to slide our adjustment all the way to the right. All that does is it makes this come down further. Okay. Take our notepad, put it in there, and just crimp it down nice and good. And now when you look at the edge of the notepad, it truly looks finished. And with that being said, it's important to have your machine marked so that now I can take this and put it right back where it belongs and go back to doing calendars and not have to readjust it or waste a lot of wire doing that. Our office printers are designed to use standard office papers. There are places where these trays lock into place.
Okay.
This is not being a standard size. There's no place for the guides
Truly lock
to truly lock. In other words, like that is snug. That's the way it needs to be. That's the lock. So, okay, so now you get this looseness in your paper.
Okay.
And what happens is, especially this happens mostly when somebody loads brand new paper in, they close the guides down and they do that.
Slam the drawer.
Now watch. I'm going to pull this out.
And it's completely askew.
So that's what causes the problem.